Welcome back to another icon battle where we take the greatest characters from fiction and face them off against each other in combat. We'll break down backgrounds, abilities, weaknesses before concluding with the final battle. In today's episode, we're taking a look at two of the most iconic slashers of all time, Michael Myers versus Jason Voorhees. Their reputations precede them, even if they both may be men of few words. Just a disclaimer right off the bat that this is a singular battle, meaning that it is not to see who would stay dead. Each of these characters has been killed off countless number of times throughout their series, and always come back. So we're going to be seeing in one particular battle who would come out on top. Last week we took a look at Chucky versus Annabelle, and you can click the little eye icon on the screen now to check it out after this. And if you enjoy these, please be sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest icon battles. Thank you always for watching. Starting off with background and appearance, we have the one and only Jason Voorhees. An absolute unit of massive structure, completely silent, undead, and an absolute killing machine. He's the main slasher of the series Friday the 13th. He typically wears a dirty brown jacket of some kind, and perhaps his most iconic feature is the hockey mask that he wears on his face. Jason's backstory is an interesting one, and I'll try to cover it in a TLDR sort of way. As a kid, Jason was bullied and ended up drowning at Camp Crystal Lake during summer camp, which is a central location of Jason's story. And while they thought he had died, Jason actually survived and remained on the property. But there is something to be said about the waters that he quote-unquote died in because of his immortal and zombie-like state. His mom also lived there, but had no idea that he was alive during this time. Fast forward a bit, and his mother was killed after going on a killing spree of her own, which fueled Jason's anger even more. One thing led to another, and what started off as killing his mom's murderer led him to unleashing his vengeance on everyone he came across, whether it be people who are immoral or innocent people. Jason is fueled by his anger for having been drowned and his mother's death. There are several theories as to why Jason kills, but these two seem to be the driving factors, and there's a lot of different iterations of Jason, but his backstory remains the same. Moving on, we have Michael Myers, an iconic slasher in his own right, and the main antagonist of one of my all-time favorite horror movies, Halloween. His appearance is extremely unique and creepy. He wears a mechanic's coverall jumpsuit and a mask, specifically a mask of Captain Kirk from Star Trek, except it's been completely covered in white paint, and the eyes have been cut out, making his eyes completely dark without any features. Michael Myers, just like Jason, is large in stature, and is completely silent, never speaking a word. From the beginning, Michael had a troubled childhood. He killed his older sister at just 6 years old and was admitted into a psychiatric hospital. 15 years after that, he escaped the asylum and sought to find and kill the rest of his family along with anyone who got in his way. This is the driving factor of our silent killer. The film's name derives from him typically returning home on or around Halloween. Theories say that this is because his Halloween was ruined when he was a child, so that date holds significance for him. One of the primary people that he hunts down is Laurie Strode, his younger sister, played by Jamie Lee Curtis in the first movie, along with a couple of other iterations that she appears in. Michael Myers may be a man of few words as well, but he absolutely wreaks havoc when it calls for it. Moving on, we'll now be discussing their method of killing, aka which weapons they primarily use, or if there's any specific ways of killing that they are most known for. This one is highly anticipated because of the carnage that both of these characters have done over the years in the countless number of movies that they have to their disposal, with so many different weapons. If there were to be one iconic weapon for Jason Voorhees, it would have to be his handy machete. This would most likely be his weapon of choice if he had to choose one, and most of the pictures you see him, he will be wielding this very machete. But don't underestimate his creativity. He has killed his victims with ice picks, forklifts, frozen them, then bashed their heads in with knives, spears, scalpels, and on and on. He's hit the tour of the world with weapons. He's also so strong that he can actually crush people's heads with his bare hands. Just an absolute menace. Michael Myers is also in the same vein when it comes to weapons and kills. He's all over the place, with his first kill being with a kitchen knife. If there was going to be one particular weapon of choice for Michael, it would be this very knife, but his kill list is very similar to that of Jason's. He too has crushed people's heads in with his bare hands, stabbed people with pipes, scalpels, knives, thrown off moving vehicles, and so many other iconic kills. He's extremely strong in stature and is extremely resilient, since he's able to single-handedly kill people with his bare hands. Again, these two are just pretty much identical in the way that they kill people, considering they have a wide array of methods and styles. Next, let's discuss the abilities and powers of Jason Voorhees. For starters, we have his superhuman strength. Even from early on in the series, he's able to overpower all of his victims with ease to a superhuman level. He's able to easily pick people up and throw them like they're nothing, and these are full-sized people, mind you. He can break through doors with ease, completely demolishing them as well. He shows time and time again that he has strength that is beyond human, or at least in the top % of human strength. On top of that, Jason has high tolerance for pain as well, before he became a zombie, which we'll touch on in a second. He should show signs of pain from being stabbed and slashed. However, he's able to just withstand this pain in a way that many other humans would not be able to. They'd either die or be completely stopped dead in their tracks. When he's on the prowl for his next victim, he is extremely stealthy and silent, most of the time going in and out of places without being heard or spotted, likewise popping up on victims without ever being heard. Like many horror icons, he doesn't have teleportation officially, but he'll kind of just appear or disappear on a whim. This assumes he can walk either super fast or has super speed. He's also very intelligent, setting up traps and thinking one step ahead of his victims in many of the Friday the 13th movies. Now, there is a zombie undead version of Jason which appears in part 6, and after that point, in this form, he does have supernatural strength and does not feel any pain. So just normal Jason, but on crack. He's also completely immortal and has regeneration abilities as well. Now this is definitely something to consider if we're going to be facing him off against Michael. Moving on, we have Michael Myers. He too has superhuman strength and stealth. He can lift, hold, and strangle adults with just one hand. He can smash people's heads in with his sheer strength and throw people around like they're feathers. Like Jason, he can survive wounds that would most likely kill anybody else. I mean, look at how many Halloween movies there's been. Whether it be gunshots or stabs, he's a force to be reckoned with. There's this theory that he may be able to regenerate his wounds and self-heal, but this is just speculation. Another speculation is that he can teleport. While he himself doesn't run, he always seems to be able to catch up to running victims. And whether we'll shut off our suspension of disbelief or not for that, he may have some sort of teleportation, but this is not officially in the list of his powers. He may not have an extensive list, but you don't want to mess with Michael Myers if you come across him. And with every strength, there are weaknesses. One of Jason's biggest weaknesses or vulnerabilities is water. It is a point of trauma from his childhood and renders him weaker because of this. He also cannot run, and he is very slow and brute type. While he does have his spurts of intelligence, he's very one track with certain things, especially when it comes to his killing, and he's very serious about that. Going on to Michael, I was trying to do some research and looking back as a fan of the series, and it's hard to pinpoint an exact weakness. A few potential ones that could come to mind is that he is killable and he can be injured. Fire also seems to be a specific weakness of his, at least for a short while. There's also some theories that have to do with his mask, as in if you take it off of his face, he may be more focused on getting it back on than attacking. There's several cases of this throughout some of the movies, but this is what I could find everywhere I searched and remembered from the Halloween franchise. If I missed anything, let me know below, but there doesn't seem to be any specific weakness per se. He's definitely beatable, but I don't know when it comes to vulnerabilities if he has any soft spots. So there you have it, a breakdown of Jason and Michael's limitations, power, strength, and background. Now it's time for these two killing machines to go head to head. In this portion of the video, I will lay out a hypothetical fight using all this information and what we know about them. As always, these fights could go a million different ways, so let me know how you see this fight going. Alright, let's go. So starting off with the battlefield for these two, I'm thinking an undisclosed forest at night with an old shed as a backdrop. I was thinking Camp Crystal Lake possibly, but this would have just given Jason an extreme advantage. I think somewhere out in the wilderness, more specifically a forest of some kind or maybe a field, is where both of these icons would be found. I would assume that they would also both be wielding their specific weapons. So a machete for Jason and a kitchen knife for Michael. They would spot each other and slowly walk towards each other before their weapons would clash. Jason would go for a swing down on Michael with his machete before Michael would stop him with his arm before stabbing him in the chest with his knife. This would not faze Jason at all though, and he would retaliate by kicking him to the ground. The two would trade blows and stab and cut each other, and at one point or another they would end up in the shed where Michael would grab a pitchfork and throw it at Jason, in which he would pull it out of his chest and toss it right back at him. At the end of the day, I believe Jason would eventually whittle down Michael because on paper, Jason's regeneration and lack of pain as an undead would give him the edge, and Michael is still more of a human than Jason, which automatically gives Jason so much more of an advantage. And while it would again take a long while and they would be going blow for blow and it would be very close, I do believe at the end of the day though, Jason would overpower Michael to a certain degree and finally get the best of it. So I think that because of that, Jason Voorhees is the winner of our icon battle. I know this one was a little shorter. I definitely wanted to get more creative with it, but I think that it would kind of be redundant because both of these are very specific and they're very similar to each other to a certain degree. Probably the most similar that we've seen of all the battles. But check out all of them. I just created a playlist. But let me know, do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know below. I'd love to hear who you think would have won the battle. And please let me know who should battle next. Thank you very much for watching. All the support is always appreciated. And I will catch you on the next icon battle.